All right, take one. Here it is. Welcome back, everybody, to another new video. This is a little different from what I usually do, but today we're going to be talking about why I went with the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera, specifically the 6K Pro. Hey everyone, my name is Parker. Today, like I said, we're going to be talking about the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema 6K Pro. This I got not too long ago, just about last summer. As a broke college student who's in film, this has been a super nice camera for me to use when I'm on shoots, sets, and just kind of everyday stuff. First off, I want to go kind of over with the specs. If you guys don't know what the BlackMagic 6K Pro is, the BlackMagic has a really nice sensor size of 23.10 by 12.99 millimeters. The mount that it uses is a Canon EF mount, so it is great to use if you have a Canon. It's got a dynamic range of 13 stops and can shoot at either ProRes, which is a .mov, or BlackMagic RAW, which is BlackMagic's own RAW, which is referred to as .braw. So the BlackMagic can shoot 6K 50 FPS at BRAW, which can go all the way down to 2.8K still shooting at BRAW. But once you get to ProRes, that's when you can start shooting from 4K to HD 1080p by 1920, or I flipped that, 1920 by 1080p. And at HD, you can shoot at 120 frames per second, which is great. But everything else except 6K can shoot up to 60 FPS. So I'm not gonna go super deep into aspect ratio and the resolution on this camera, but it captures high quality and really crisp images when recording. I haven't had any problems while shooting with this camera. I shoot usually at ProRes 4K, so I can do some overscanning and, you know, shoot at 4K, make my sequence 1080p so I can zoom it out with no problems at all. And it's wonderful. What's nice about this camera is it actually comes with DaVinci Resolve, which is amazing for color grading. It's usually free. It's free if you want to do video editing, but to do really in-depth color grading, you have to have the Pro version, which comes with this camera for free. So we're going to go to the side of the camera and talk about the inputs that you can put into this camera. So it obviously has a 3.5 millimeter jack for both headphones and a microphone. But if that doesn't satisfy you, it comes with two mini XLR mics for higher quality, which is, in my opinion, great, especially if you're doing like interviews or podcasts or something like that, which I don't think you really need a 6K Pro for a podcast, but if you really want to do that, by all means, go ahead. It also comes with an Hdmi that can output at 1080p, 60 frames per second, which I believe is about 10 bits. You can do 10 bits with that. You also have a USB Type-C input, which you can also use SSDs or hard drives to plug in and have extra memory. But if you want to go more of the CFast route or the SD card route, it has both a CFast and an SD card slot on the right side that you can plug in and play with. It comes with a 12-volt plug-in that you can directly plug into the wall. It comes with the camera, and I really was appreciative of that because I was able to plug this into a wall at one of my shoots because it was an hour-long shoot of just straight footage, and I was able to just hook up a 1 terabyte SSD card to it. I almost called it an SD card, but I hooked up my SSD to it, and I was able to shoot the entire time and get awesome footage. And it was in the dark, and it looked great. Speaking of the dark, its native ISO is 400, but it can go up to 25,600, which is a little crazy. I don't think you needed that much. You can see it's all just blurry or noisy. When I'm usually shooting with this camera, especially when I'm outside, I'm always at the native ISO of 400. But what comes in clutch with this guy, which the 6 and 4K do not have, is the built-in ND filters, which can do clear, 2-stop, 4-stop, and 6-stop. I was on a shoot this weekend and it saved everybody's lives. I was able to do a shot outside because somebody was inside and outside while we're shooting, and we kind of needed to mix them together, and we needed the ND filters. Well, the first camera we were using, we didn't have any for them, so I brought over the 6K and we were able to just hook it up, put on the ND filter, fix everything. So it's definitely a lifesaver and a game changer, and it's also makes a beautiful noise. I love that sound. I love that sound. It does come with a 5-inch 1080p monitor, which unlike the 4K and 6K, it can pop out for different angles and different viewing, which is also like a super big plus. I use it all the time because I always catch myself like staring down, you know, trying to make sure like I get with it, and then I'm like, wait a second, you just pop it out. Makes my whole life 10 times easier. I mean, just look at that. God, I love that. To talk about the buttons, it has, just like the other cameras, the ISO button, a shutter speed button, white balance, and 3 function buttons, which I really enjoy because I can customize which feature it shows. I have my first one set up with false color, second one zebra, and then another one's focus peaking. I really enjoy this. Because it has focus peaking, that saves my life all the time. This is the first camera I've ever owned that had focus peaking. Higher ups are like, oh, it's essential to have focus peaking. I'm a broke college student. This is my nicest camera I've ever owned. And there is a reason why I bought this. The price, it is $2,500, which is ridiculous for a cinematic grade camera. And with the 4K and 6K, that's still starting from $1,500 to $2,000. But is it worth it to pay the extra $500 for just a couple extra features? For me, that's a fat yes. However, it does come with its cons. It's a lot bigger than the 4K and 6K. It's a lot bulkier. My buddy has a gimbal, and I'm not able to put this on it. If I had the 4K or 6K, I would be able to, but this is a lot wider. The specific dimensions of it is actually here. I wrote it down for you, just so you know it, so you don't have to look it up. 7.08 inches by 4.41 inches by 4.84 inches, and it weighs approximately 2.73 pounds, which is pretty light for a cinematic camera. Granted, you're gonna probably make a rig with it, and that will definitely make it a lot heavier. I'll actually put a link in the description of another guy talking about it. I really enjoy his videos about his rig for his BlackMagic 6K Pro, and it weighs about 15 pounds, which doesn't sound too heavy, but after a while it does get really heavy. Another weird feature about this is autofocus is enabled on here, but it's not continuous, obviously. You just press this little button right here, bam, autofocus if your lens is compatible. Do you really use it a lot? Probably not. Just turn on your focus peaking, do it manually. Makes it 10 times easier. So with power on this guy, it actually takes, and I have one in here right now, these bad boys right here, specifically the NP F570s. These do cost a little bit pricier, costing about $55 per battery pack. I have 3 of them. Promise you, these two are legit. I did not get these off of Amazon, and they're not fake. They're real. Please believe me. What's different between the 4K and 6K is you can get one of these battery pack extensions, but you're like, oh, Parker, you know, this 4K and 6K have one too. It does. That is completely correct. But this can allow your camera to have 3 batteries in it at once compared to the other ones, which you can only have 2. You can have the battery in the actual camera, and then you can have 2 batteries in the handle itself. It actually fits on really snug. I'll do it right now. It's real easy to connect, put it on, turn it on, and it actually shows you all 3 batteries and what their lives are at, which is really nice and convenient for my sake. However, I kind of messed up when I bought mine, and I got myself a cage for my camera, but I didn't think about it, and I didn't put this guy on here because I got a SmallRig and it doesn't allow an attachment for batteries. So I have to get a separate cage if I want to also have the battery pack on it. So that's something to keep in mind if you're always gonna have the battery pack on it. Plus, it's kind of limits you in rigs when if you're just gonna build a rig with it, you might as well just go with an external battery. So that's just kind of a quick rundown with specs on the camera. But here's my opinion on it. This camera is great, and I highly recommend it for its price, coming from a college student who's in film. And this thing has saved my life a lot on shoots, and it just made my whole production rise up by 3,000%. It makes everything look a lot more crisp. Film production is way more serious. It's way more intense looking. I love that I have this camera. It's worth every penny that I paid for it. The only thing that is not worth it is the $500 viewfinder. I don't know why it's that expensive. It's just a tiny viewfinder. I'm not paying for that viewfinder. It does not come with the viewfinder, and you have to pay for the viewfinder. Personally, to me, it's not worth it. However, this camera, if you're looking for a cinematic grade camera that on a budget, you know, especially if you're in my area, college student, kind of just doing classwork and also side jobs, this is the bang for your buck. If you are looking for a grade A cinematic camera. The attachments for it can get a little pricey if you want to build a full-blown rig. However, this is definitely worth your while. It's small, compact. It literally just looks like a DSLR. I love it. This is my baby boy. It's my child. I highly recommend it. If you're looking for a camera and you need something cheap and reliable, BlackMagic's where to go. I've dropped this thing a couple times, not a single dent on it, and it's a hefty boy. Especially if you're already using Canons. I have quite a few already. I have a lot of EF mounts, and it just works. It just works. Highly recommend this if you're looking for a cheap, affordable camera to use for your productions and to boost your cinematic quality. Thanks guys for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed my review on the BlackMagic Pocket Cinema Camera. Just really wanted to talk about this camera. I'm in love with it. And if you have any questions, please put them in the comments below. But otherwise, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next video. I'm gonna stop this.